Lopez, on the other hand, I mean, you mentioned his performance against TEOFIMO Lopez, which I thought certainly for the first 6 rounds was disciplined. He stuck to the game plan. He was concentrated. And you compare that to his camp. Look, take nothing away from Kambosos. We're not going to, certainly not really going to discuss the chest issue that Lopez had afterwards. But somebody said this on Twitter. If you were looking at a kind of way to not defend your world title for the first defense, it would be that. Going out in the first round, trying to blow him away, get rid of him straight away, overestimating him, and then blowing out, which is what he did. Yeah. Lopez was blowing out of his arse after 3 or 4 rounds. Kambosos was still there.
You see stuff in boxing sometimes which you just shake your head, don't you, where you just think, how can you make that kind of mistake that people have made so many times before?
I think,
like when Andy Ruiz turned up for the rematch with Joshua at 20 stone 3, you think,
have you not watched boxing before?
Done this.
We spoke about this, didn't we? We've kind of, with boxing being... Okay, you mentioned earlier about reinventing the wheel and people want to kind of say it's something that it's not now. If you look back through all of the years, you have these examples just repeated and repeated and repeated every single generation, and people don't seem to learn from them. And you continue in the trend of the last however many years of, okay, young guy comes from nothing, wins title, gets lots of money, takes his eye off the ball, gets beat. Yeah. Like it is rinse and repeat in this sport, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think when you get to that, when you have that moment, you're not sort of prepared to take stock like that and be like, all right, I'm not going to do what everyone else does at this point, because at that point you're famous and got loads of money. So then you're not thinking about it.
You're
invincible, aren't you?
I think there's too much. I think there was too much chaos in. I know we don't want to dwell on it because it's old news now, but there's too much chaos in that camp. We know that the dad and everything else is just, it's all weird, but it was just about as badly. It went as badly as it could have done. But then someone posted that video of him taking body shots from that strongest man in the world or whatever, and you just think, that was 2 weeks out, and you think, who was allowing that to happen in the camp? Like the old man's probably in the gym at that point. How is that? Imagine he'd done you ain't got to be a good fighter to hit someone with, be the strongest man in the world, to hit someone with your fist
the strongest
at full
man
blood in the small man at 135 pounds. It's just like beggars belief.
It was also bringing weight down, which I've mentioned it a few times tonight.
Someone allowed that. People were allowing that.
Yeah, I've mentioned it a few times tonight. That was, I think, certainly an issue, with that.
$1,000,000%.
When Callum Smith boxed Canelo, TEOFIMO Lopez and his dad was in the bar after the fight and that. And honestly, I've never seen a lightweight in my life. I was like saying, he'll never fight lightweight again. He'll never ever fight lightweight again. He was absolutely massive. And, talking to him up close and that. And he was a great guy as well, by the way. But it was the frame of him was huge, and he wasn't in camp, but he didn't look soft either. Do you know what I mean? And
the naturally big guy.
Yeah, naturally, and I was like convinced he'll never fight at lightweight again. Then when he did, and then I think for me the big thing was seeing him at the presser and seeing him at the weigh-in. You thought, he took a big cut. But I'll be honest, I just thought he wins, but possibly on points now. But
we spoke about it, didn't we? I'd said for a long time my kind of like big call was that he was going to blow the weight. He was going to miss the weights, like and clearly, like 137, 138. Fuck your time.
He's massive.
Up to 140.
It was huge.
Obviously, he made the weight in the end, and how much that took of him, look, we don't really know. But I remember after the Nakatani fight, he was saying, right, I'm going to move up. Unless I can get the Lomachenko fight, I'm going to move up.
Yeah.
He got the Lomachenko fight, which took ages to make. Finally got it. Then was out of the ring for another year because of all of this. That George Kambosos fight, when you look at kind of the Triller stuff, how he pissed off Top Rank, the whole thing was an absolute...
It couldn't have gone any worse.
It really couldn't. It really couldn't have gone any worse.
He got well paid. He
no rematch clause. All of it was just an absolute... That's the only thing that you can say about it. He got paid well. Yeah. But now his stock, say his stock has fallen. It's completely plummeted.
Yeah, I don't think we can count him amongst the lightweights anymore, surely.
Nah, he's not going to make... because if he doesn't have... if he had a rematch clause and it was like, okay, one more time, you have to go down, win your belts, a bit of pride or whatever you want to call it, then yeah. but he doesn't have a rematch clause. What's he going to do? Like go down to 135 and then box Yvonne Mendy or somebody like that, and like get himself back in position? It's just not going to happen. So like I put out like a list of lightweights that I'd love to see box each other.
Yeah,
in my opinion, he's not a lightweight.
He's not making lightweight again. I've said it before and got it wrong, but he will not make it again.
Did anybody read the I can't remember who, Corey Erdman, his piece on boxing scene about Lopez the week? That was.
He said he's down to his last 20 grand or something.
He was down to his last $20,000. He had a really, one of the quotes that stuck with me from that was that he has so much pain that when he knocks somebody down, if the referee wasn't there, he'd jump on them and elbow them.
Oh, jeez, I didn't see this.
And then he was, I think one of the piece ended on him walking out shouting something like "fuck the government" or something like that. And we know the kind of the dynamic of the camp is a little bit, how do we want to put it? A little bit charged, yeah. Everybody's a little bit mad in there, which, you know, okay, they harnessed it for the Lomachenko fight. It was great, but I kind of always felt that he was going to be somebody who would have a lot of fights, a lot of big fights early in his career, and then kind of burn out a little bit, like a Fernando Vargas
you just
type
about to
guy.
say,
Like somebody who has lots of big fights, win some, lose some, always give plenty of entertainment, ill-disciplined, and eventually kind of calls time in his career after 27, 28. It's really interesting to see what happens with him now. He's signed a new deal with Top Rank where he's got, I think it's 2 pay-per-view shows in his contract for next year. Who they're going to be against? I mean, well, you'd think that one of them's going to be against Josh Taylor, but based on what we saw this past weekend, you don't want to get him anywhere near Josh Taylor if you're looking to rebuild.
Or even like Prograis or anyone like that. You wouldn't want to.
Nah, neither. But then that's another good. I think Lopez can win world titles again. Because I think he's a tremendous athlete. I think, you know, when you see him from dancing, football, sprint, he's an athlete.
He managed to do that backflip with a pneumo mediastinum, which was unbelievable.
He's but then there again as well, Josh. I think Josh should be like, there's no see that at some point he's going to go up. Josh will go up to welterweight at some point, you imagine soon. So I don't know if we'll see that, but like you said, would you first fight back? You wouldn't fancy putting Lopez in with a Regis or all that, would you? But there'll be big fights in there for him. But if the pay-per-view fights, they're going to have to be the big names. So
you'd think that obviously Top Rank are very good at guiding fighters, and you'd think that they have got a lot of 140 pounders as well. You think, but if he moves up,
Even
and
like
say he
Zepeda.
boxes, that's just what I was going to say.
Even
If he
Zepeda.
boxes as Zepeda,
Yeah.
Zepeda does blow hot and
belts
cold.
on it, though,
Sometimes
doesn't
it's unbelievable, and other times it's a bit
Yeah.
lethargic. But if you get the best version of Zepeda showing up and say his first fight at 140, Lopez can't move up to 140 and box a Hank Lundy or somebody like that, having kind
Not
of
on pay-per-view.
the takeover and the blah blah blah. No, we're going to fight Hank Lundy or Robbie Davis Jr. are going to go over there and box him. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with him. Does anybody know what happened to Joey Gamache?
No, see, that's a weird. Apparently, he didn't want to do the camp. Where was it they did the camp? Wherever it was, Joey Gamache didn't want to do that, which I find surprising, and I think it really showed.
There's got to be more to it.
Yeah, I think it really showed in the performance that he was missing.
Kind of like smacks of somebody, a really experienced boxing guy.
Going, I don't want any more.
I'm not part of it. Yeah,
who's
I
just
don't want
walked
any more
away,
of that.
because I remember we all know his kind of background in the sport, but I remember just seeing him quite a bit at Sowell and Nordic Fight Nights, because he's got Otto Allen and you're just killing time during the day, and I sat down with him like 2 or 3 times and we're just talking about all sorts of things, and he's just a very interesting bloke and a really nice bloke. And I just thought that must be what had happened. Like, I'm not his mate, like I don't claim to know him, but you just get a vibe off someone, don't you, sometimes?
Yeah.
And I just thought he's definitely the kind of person where he would just think,
yeah, I'm
"Nah,
not part of this
don't need
madness.
this.
I'm not
Don't
doing
need
this anymore."
Yeah.
You know, he's like, remember that kind of like when he left it late in the day, but the Leon Spinks, Muhammad Ali rematch, and George Benton just walked out the arena halfway through, didn't he? Because he was told you got to share corner duties with someone else, and he just thought, nah, fuck this.
I'm George
Like,
Benton.
So he's probably just, that's an extreme example, but he's obviously looked at it and just thought, I won't be part of this.
Yeah.
And that was it. I say obviously, like I said, it's a guess, but I'd be pretty confident that's what happened there.
You know, you mentioned that what he said about his, you know, the pain that he has. I don't know if I'm imagining this, but there was a good whatever the build-up show was before the Lomachenko fight, and he was talking about being depressed and stuff like that at that
he had
age.
like a massive fallout, didn't he, with his... that was around the Nakatani fight. He had a big fallout with his new wife.
Yeah,
I
they're
think
not together anymore. Because when I interviewed him it was Crawford Khan, and he boxed. I always forget the name. Who's the Icelandic or Finnish former European?
Edis
yes.
Tatley.
Tatley.
Edis Tatley.
And he stopped him that night.
Yeah.
But his missus was there at the time, and they were very loved up. In fact, that after that fight, I even think they went directly from New York and got married on like the Tuesday or something. So it was big, you know. Yeah. And then if they've broken up and gone their separate ways, he's a very young guy and he's got all this happening. His trainer's gone and his dad's there. We all can see the dad, but we wonder what the relationship's like behind closed doors. You can just imagine there's a lot going on for him.
Well, that was around that Nakatani fight is when, so there was problems with the wife and the family in Vegas. So there was a lot of kind of turmoil in his personal life around that fight, which he kind of put down to his lackluster performance against Nakatani. And then, it's seemingly gone on from there. And he said he has a lot of rage, and and that's not healthy for a man of his age, particularly in such a sport like boxing, where you really need, you can have the rage and you can, as long as you harness it, but as soon as you start losing control, and then you have somebody like a Joey Gamache who maybe was the kind of the glue that was holding it together for that Lomachenko camp, or by all accounts he did wonders in the camp. You saw in the night in the performance. To lose that, and then the dad he's an interesting fella. We only have to see kind of his reaction to it. You kind of look at that and you think, okay, well, where's that going? Don't get me wrong, I didn't think it was going to go wrong against Kambosos, but I did think that there was going to be something somewhere along the line where something would happen and something would go wrong. Andy, we spoke several times about fighters having to be honest with themselves, be real with themselves after the fight. Teofimo Lopez thought he won the fight 10-2.
11-2 actually.
11-2.
Yeah, that was his post-fight interview was. I'm never too critical of what fighters say in post-fight interviews because they've just been fighting, and they're given a very short space of time to try and calm down and say something sensible. I don't think it's reasonable a lot of the time actually, but I shouldn't really say that given what I do, but. It was a disaster, his post-fight interview. Like, it couldn't really have gone any worse. It couldn't have gone any worse. But I do feel like you can let him off that so long as he does go back and watch it and realise what actually happened. But the chaos that seems to be around him, it's unsustainable. Like, it's completely exhausting. Like, I think it's not the same, but I think back to like chaotic periods during my own life and how much harder I made things for myself than they needed to be. And I'm not an elite level athlete. I just needed to get to an office by a certain time every day, and I found that hard enough. So you're trying to do what you were doing and what elite level boxing, and you've got all of that surrounding you. Either you've got to sort it out, which is going to be chaotic and emotional in itself and involve some enormous decisions, or you accept it and you have a short career. It's one of those two things, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting to see what happens from now, because I mean his dad's interview afterwards was terrible. I mean, I'm not one for defending Eddie Hearn, but like some of the stuff that he was saying about Eddie and Matchroom, Top Rank love us, and we went over here and DAZN did this. So Eddie spoke to Andy and he said he'd had all of these crazy messages off Teofimo Lopez in the middle of the night and stuff, talking about you robbed us, I can't believe you did this to us. And Teofimo Lopez Jr. and his dad, they're obviously very, very close. If that's what he's got in his ear now, after all of this stuff, don't worry, champ, we won the fight 10-2. It's just dangerous. Then that's just going to add fuel to the fire.
Because what you need is like people are compared him to Angel Garcia, but he's nothing like Angel Garcia. Because Angel Garcia, you kind of got the feeling that he just thought, right, well, I'm going to go and do this because I think it will take the heat off my boy. If people think I'm an egomaniac, I don't really fucking care because I'm only interested in him. And you're like, Joe's done that. Joe did that for Scott Wigg against Wolfram.
Yeah, he's done some mad.
People think, it's all just because Joe wants it all to be about Joe. It's not that. He just thought, I can't have Quigg locking verbal horns with Frampton because he'll lose.
He'll come off second best.
So I'll do that. I remember after the open workouts that fight week, Joe just came over to, I think it was Eddie or whoever it was, and just said, right, at the press conference on Thursday, I'm just going to get stuck into Barry. I haven't really decided how I'm going to do it yet, but I'll go for Barry. You go for Shane, and we'll all just... And it was kind of... And I just thought, this is ace. But that's what Joe does. That's what Angel Garcia does, I think. Whereas Lopez Senior, I think, is...
It's not that considered.
It's not that thought through.
No.
I don't... You might remember, but the amount of times I've been at Vegas fight weeks and they're just knocking about. This is back in the day, even before he was really famous, whatever. And the old man was just always fuming about anything.
Yeah.
He's
Didn't
just
matter what it
Bowling
was.
to the press room,
always
you could hear him shouting.
and it didn't matter what it was. He'd be, oh, where's Bob? I want to speak to her. And it's like, mate, and like you say, he's got that. If Junior's got that in his ear at all times, which he basically has, it takes a lot, I think, to be able to sort of separate what is mad and what isn't. And it's a funny old double act, and they were thick as thieves, clearly, and they used to just knock about, and the old man would be fuming. It'd be great for content, basically, but when it boils down to it, is it sustainable? Probably not.
It's just not, is it? I don't think.
All right.